Dissension in the ranks. Several congressional Democrats are now voicing opposition to the biggest arms sale in U.S. history to Saudi Arabia, a plan that Israel has quietly agreed to because it's believed it would help the Saudis create a buffer against Iran. New York Congressman Anthony Weiner is leading the opposition to the arms sale and joins us here now. Congressman, Israel is going along with this. The Obama White House is doing it because they feel it will help, in fact, help coordinate American efforts against Iran, because then there will be the same weapon systems in Saudi Arabia that we operate as well, the F-15s and the advanced fighter jets. So what is your opposition?
Well, first of all, the Israelis have not stated their position on it. I don't really care all that much
about
what...
They're tacitly going along with it.
Well, they haven't really said one way or the other, but I have to tell you, this is bad U.S. policy. You know, every single new arms sale we hear about, AWACS in the 80s, JDAMs a couple of years ago, it's all about arming the Saudis so they'll be a hedge against Iran. When has that ever happened? Have the Saudis ever shown any backbone to helping us? If they wanted to help us with Iran, they should have helped us when there was the spike in oil prices and President Bush asked for help and they said no. If they wanted to help us, they would stop funding and exporting terrorism. They'd start treating their own people a little bit better and not teaching hate in their schools. This is just a very bad policy. And, you know, every time we get into this cycle of exporting more arms to the Middle East, we wind up waking up one morning and finding out, hey, all those arms we sent to Iraq, now the Iraqi government has fallen and they're in the wrong hands. This is the same thing that's going to happen with a country like Saudi Arabia, which has a strong fundamentalist streak to it, and they simply haven't been our allies. I don't know what we're rewarding them for.
The White House position, the State Department position is that we have been, and this is not just this administration, but the past administration, that we really need to get the Gulf countries, the Saudis and others, aligned against Iran. And in fact, this is what is predicating the whole policy, that we're going to encircle Iran and push back. And this is one way to persuade the Saudis not to try to go nuclear.
Well, I have to tell you something. The Saudis have been theoretically our hedge all along, and yet U.S. troops have had to essentially occupy and protect Saudi Arabia at every turn. You, me, and 9 of your news writers could probably stand up to the Iranians longer than the Saudis would. This argument, frankly, comes down to one thing, the desire to sell more U.S. arms. And listen, I don't have a problem with helping out a U.S. industry, but we are essentially rewarding the rogue nation of Saudi Arabia. They have done nothing to help us in all of the crises that we faced. You know, when oil prices spiked, President Bush went over there and asked for help. What did they say? No. When it came time to help with the Middle East, what did they say? We're going to be the leading exporter of terrorism and Wahhabism around the world. And now they're going to do it with about $60 billion of F-15s. It's a bad idea.
Now, right now you're leading the opposition, but you may be leading the opposition in the minority after the election, because every analysis now shows that at least the House is really in trouble. We now see Chet Edwards and other members of Congress. This is a new commercial from Chet Edwards running away from Nancy Pelosi.
President Obama and Nancy Pelosi pressured Chet Edwards. Chet stood up to them and voted no against their trillion-dollar health care bill and no to cap and trade. And when Washington liberals wanted to take away our guns, Chet said no.
How do you run this campaign as a Democratic majority when everyone's going in different directions and the Speaker of the House herself is now becoming a big issue among Democrats?
Well, I doubt very much Nancy Pelosi or Anthony Weiner can get elected in Chet Edwards' district, but Chet Edwards does a great job. That's why he's going to get reelected. As for the punditry about who's up and who's down, let's wait and see. You know, the punditry seems to pivot more times in a 24-hour cycle than you can imagine. But as far as Saudi arms sales and other issues, there are a lot of things that I think the Republicans and Democrats are going to agree upon. I'm confident that we're going to be in the majority. We're the party that's talking about doing things. They're the parties talking about turning things back. I don't think people want to go back to the Bush years.
Anthony Weiner, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Great to see you.
Thanks.